morning, everyone. It's indeed an honor and a privilege to be here, to be invited to this conference. I honestly look forward for Barbados, and I was hoping that the pandemic would have been under control. But so be it. I think that the issue of intimate conviction is very important, and the issue of sexuality and human sexuality is important in our world today, especially in context of religion. And I'm hoping that I can do justice. I'm hoping that I can stick within my time frame, and if I go over, I'm hoping that somebody will be so gracious to give me their time. We have a slide. Can we have that slide? What about this image? Is this the image of a man, or is it that of a woman? What is the sexuality of this individual? How do you determine that? Is it determined by the religious community, by your birth certificate? Is it by what is between your legs, what is in your mind, or is it just influenced by the devil? Is it the religious conviction? Is it that religious conviction that determines and influences the church's position on human sexuality, or is it human sexuality and sexual intelligence that determine religious convictions? Is the church sponsoring hate crime, forcing those that it refused to understand into exile? The church and each church member is called to be the head and not the tail. The church does not get its directives from the world. The church gives directives to the world. The religious community, the church, is under threat from all fronts. One of the most vicious threat comes from or in the form of human sexuality. The church must equip itself to protect its legacy, its doctrine, its membership, and the relationship with the church leader, who is God. If the church gives in to threats of taking sides on the issue of human sexuality, it will be forever failing what it has established over centuries as a place of hope, reformation, and empowerment. Unlike all other threats, the church faces these threats of human sexuality in very crippling forms. The church's position has, for centuries, ruffled feathers and continue to make sectors of society uncomfortable. An alarming number of people are leaving the church today as a result of relationship issues and perceived hypocrisy. The time has come for the church, more so its leadership, to educate on the basic fundamentals of human sexuality so that the church can grow and be effective in fulfilling the mandate of both God and man. I'm a heterosexual man. I am not sexually or romantically attracted to other men. I may not, I may not get there, or maybe I will. The church embraces me, and I'm welcomed with open arms. I feel a sense of belonging and a part of the second most powerful earthly institution after the family. Overtly, there are men that are sexually and romantically attracted to other men. Same for women. In times gone by, they are referred to in derogatory names. Today we call them homosexuals or LGBTQ community members. They are considered sons and daughters of the devil by some quarters of the church. In some churches, they may remain within the church system if they opt to remain quiet and deceitful in their behavior and lifestyle. If they dare become outspoken about their feelings, it may cause them to be considered as outcasts, squared, not worthy to sit among the saints. Then they are asexuals, people who do not have any sexual feeling or romantic attraction to either gender. How does the church deal with persons or members of this nature? With all of this happening, more than 60% of all single people in churches are having sex or actively involved in sexual activities as early as age 13 and 14. That can be considered deviant by the church's standard. They are utilizing their sexual and sexuality and sexual intelligence to satisfy their carnal desire. Married couples are having romantic and sexual attraction and activities with persons outside of their spouse. They are preachers who are romantically and sexually attracted to opposite sex. While they do not necessarily indicate that they are having sexual activities, they are. It still raises eyebrow and may even be a point of concern to come, given that the preacher is the one who propagates from the pulpit of morality and better lifestyle. Is sexuality really a moral issue? How is it possible for a preacher to be moral and preaching morality but condemning sexual realities that they don't quite understand? Is there a difference between those who openly admit of being attracted sexually or romantically to same sex and those that keep their feelings and desires secret? The religious body and conservative parenting holds this view that if we talk less about sex and promote sex less, then we are more likely to be experimenting sexually or given to sexual activities. It is this small box concept that makes us feel pressure to defend ourselves against sexual education and sexual expression. We rather live in a sexual vacuum, not knowing the truth, rather blindly believing and restricting our understanding of the notion of human sexuality. We prefer to know that human sexuality is black or white. Human sexuality is not static. Human sexuality is progressive. Human sexuality is very fluid, and everyone goes through sexual changes over a period of time. Human sexuality is presently used as a social pillar for hate and discrimination. People would like to think that you're either man or woman. Ever since, we would rather label stuff and put them into a box, but not human sexuality. This is out of ignorance and small-mindedness to think that some desire to remain uneducated on an issue in order not to experience personal discomfort. Trying to put everyone in a box leads to prejudice, discrimination, stigma, and it births hate crime. When we do think that we too should be put in a box, but do not realize that we are different from each other, we begin to believe that there's something wrong with us, and we begin to fuel self-hate and believing that there's something that is wrong. I want to suggest to us that the religious community needs to take a hard look on human sexuality. We are born different. None of us are the same. We believe that we are unique and fearfully and wonderfully made. Our genes and the composition of genes makes that difference. It is told that cognitively that women are more illogical, that women are more emotional, that men are logical, men are more into problem solving. But we accept the fact that there can be some variation. My wife is quite logical. My wife is quite logical. And I'm aware that she does problem solving as well. I am emotional. I'm empathetic. But the world will say that men should not be empathetic, or if men are empathetic, then there is something wrong. But yet we call on men to be empathetic towards others and to be emotional toward others. Then what about those who have same gender expression and are attracted to each other? I believe that if the church understands and embraces the idea of understanding the reality of human sexuality, then we can become a place where all of us can feel welcome, appreciated, and the fight against hate crime and this stigma and discrimination will no longer exist. The religious community holds the key towards propagating oneness and inclusion, but we rather stay on the side of not understanding so that we will not able to compromise our religious belief. I look forward for the day, and that's what I'm campaigning on, in having the church understand that human sexuality has nothing to do with preference and choice. It is how we are born, is how we are made up, is a composition of our genetics. These are the things that we need to take into consideration, that while we suppress those who are having feelings outside of us, we are alienating them, we are pushing them into exile, and we are propagating injustice. That is not what the church stands for. It is time for the church to embrace sexual intelligence so that we can be informed and have knowledge, that we can use our emotional skills to embrace those who are just like us. In the Old Testament, it is told that Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed because of what they were experiencing of homosexuality. But then we accept the idea that Solomon had 300 wives and 700 concubines. If Jesus was on earth today, he would have embraced human rights and every individual that we do not consider to be like us. It is a time for the church to do likewise so that we can be more meaningful in our society. Thank you.
Thank you, Telford, very much. You've very properly honed in, despite the gongs which must sound like a guillotine descending. You've very properly focused on the complexity of sexuality, which we all experience of one kind or another. It's not easy. It's not easy moving to puberty. It's not easy moving into your teens. We're subject to all sorts of pressures of one kind or another, not least the pressure of what society is supposed to accept from us and expect from us. The business of whether you're born like it or whether it comes to you is a false distinction. We never know what we are until we get much older. And then who's to say whether it's an original something or whether it's something that's grown surreptitiously without our knowledge. So thank you very much for pointing all of that out. Stay with us for the question and answer, please. Next speaker is Luke Sinnett, who is the lead social worker, Friends for Life of Trinidad and from Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome, Luke, very much.